Today we're diving into a brand new chaotic manga that starts with the most cursed title I've ever heard. 6 people who don't die and the person fated to die. Yeah, I don't know what that means either, but buckle up. Our story kicks off with your average high school introvert, Osaka Meguru. He just got hit with the worst news of his life. His longtime childhood friend, Toka Aoba, finally got herself a boyfriend. Meguru's standing there, brain short-circuiting, while Toka just waves at him with this cheeky little, sorry look on her face. And even though he always called her weird, he has to admit, her face isn't half bad. So yeah, this one hurts. He didn't think it would piss him off this much. He clenches his fist so hard on the stairs you can hear the bones crack, looks up at the sky and screams his soul out. I swear I'm going to get a girlfriend right now. But here's the problem. Our boy is an aggressive SSS-ranked introvert. Logically, bro doesn't have a prayer. So what does any desperate teenager do when solo queuing life is impossible? He turns to the gods. Meguru hits up this ancient shrine that's apparently been housing a super powerful matchmaking deity since the Nara period. Legends say this god even helped an Edo-era shogun back his empress. Print media still coming in clutch, by the way. He read about it in his favorite magazine, New. Respect. He makes his desperate wish, and out of nowhere, boom, a completely naked woman appears. Flowing tentacle-like hair, heavy metal shackle locked around her ankle, and glowing with divine energy. She stares dead at him and asks the million-dollar question. Are you here to make a wish? Meguru's brain is buffering harder than a 2003 dial-up connection. He stammers out, are you actually a god? The goddess lights up, claps her hands together excitedly, and beams, yes, I am the matchmaking deity enshrined in this temple. She stretches out her hand with a bright smile. Go ahead with your wish. Meguru finally spits it out. He wants a girlfriend. The goddess's hair dramatically flares out like some final boss transformation. Meguru nearly has a heart attack. Then her expression suddenly turns dead serious. The playful energy vanishes. Your wish can't be granted. Wait, what? The naked goddess with the tentacle hair just dropped that bomb on him? The goddess looks at our desperate boy and drops the lure. Every person has a destined partner, the one fated to be with you, and that's the only one she can connect you with. Meguru starts stuttering an apology, all embarrassed, insisting he wasn't staring on purpose. But the goddess, Yosuga, hits him with the ultimate burn. There is no fated partner in your life, so you will never have a girlfriend. Meguru's world shatters. Tears spring to his eyes as he screams in total despair. He drops to his knees and starts full-on begging this naked, tentacle-haired goddess to do something, anything, since she's supposed to be a god. Yosuga sighs, staring at him with that heavy metal shackle still locked on her ankle. Are you basically a human-shaped pill bug? Your situation is that impossible. She admits it's troublesome, then asks the real question. Do you really want a girlfriend badly enough to do anything? Meguru shouts back without hesitation. I'm more desperate than ever. I'll do whatever it takes. Using her flowing hair like living tentacles, Yosuga suddenly snatches his phone. Meguru's shocked she even knows what a smartphone is. She holds it between her hands as bright magic light explodes from the device. After a moment, she closes her eyes and declares, it's finished. She turns the screen toward him. There's a brand new app with a shrine gate icon and a list of 6 names. Toka Aoba, Miya Shinotsuki, Mito Hirasaka, Sayaka Minemori, Hinako Kosaka, and AQ Domyoji. Yosuga tells him that one of them will definitely become his girlfriend. Meguru's standing there thinking, that's it? This pretty unimpressive god just gave me a smartphone app? He asks what changed since she said it was absolutely impossible. Yosuga explains she basically reversed cause and effect. She fixed the outcome of him getting a girl first, then pulled the entire chain of events to make it happen. Meguru doesn't fully get it, but nervously asks, so I'll actually get a girlfriend? Yosuga puts a finger to her lips with a playful smile and simply says, yes. She claps her hands excitedly. If you're lucky, you might see results by tomorrow. You should look forward to it. Cut to the next day. Meguru's sitting in his classroom under the quiet morning sun, staring at the app on his phone with the 6 names. He's still wondering if he actually met a god yesterday. He starts going through the list. The national top scorer Sayaka Minemori from the next class, and his own classmate, Mia Shinotsuki. Meguru is still sitting in class staring at the app, wondering if the last 2 girls on the list even go to a school, but his internal monologue gets instantly cut short by a loud, "Good morning!" His childhood friend Toka Aoba leans in close and asks what's up. He tries to play it cool and says nothing at all, but she immediately calls him out. You have the face of someone watching a pink pelican swallow a pigeon and realizing it's scarier than expected. He thinks to himself that's way too specific to even imagine. Looking at Toka, he decides there's no way they're destined. They've been friends since kindergarten, he just can't see her that way. A quick flashback to their childhood plays before he notices a sparkling bracelet on her wrist. Toka smiles brightly and asks, "Did you notice the shiny mark of love on my wrist? It's a gift from my boyfriend." Meguru is visibly annoyed. He thinks she's already taken and even calls her a fascist for steamrolling over democracy with all her boyfriend talk. He tries to ignore her boutique date stories, calling her a shallow consumer dancing to corporate strategy in his head, but she just laughs and keeps recapping the date. She teases him, saying he should visit the mall if he ever gets a girlfriend, then shoves a photo of her date right in his face. Meguru finds the whole thing incredibly annoying as he leans in. He suddenly snatches her phone and tells her, "Memories are more beautiful when they stay in the heart." Toka gets upset, yelling, "Hey!" and lunges at him to stop him from deleting things. They stumble into a desk, she shouts, "What? Stop, you idiot!" and the whole class watches the drama unfold. In the chaos, they both trip and fall, with Toka landing right on top of him. For a second, they freeze, blushing intensely while locking eyes. Meguru is still on the floor clutching her phone. He quickly pushes her away and yells at her to stop looking at his phone, while she reminds him he was the one who showed it to her first. After that mess, Meguru officially decides his childhood friend is out of the picture for this girlfriend hunt. He smirks, thinking about the fated person waiting for him on the list, and feels like everything is finally going to be okay. Toka walks out muttering "idiot" under her breath. Later, the clock on the school building shows 17:50. Meguru checks his phone and chuckles. That's a wrap on day 1. Standing at sunset, Meguro completely loses it and screams that literally nothing happened. He was expecting at least one unusual situation or a fateful encounter after the goddess promised one of the 6 would become his girlfriend. He wonders, how about a little sexy mishap like a girl dropping a towel? Then immediately remembers the fall with Toka earlier. He shakes his head hard, refusing to believe his childhood friend could be his fated one. As he walks home with his backpack on, he starts imagining the deity lying nude again and considers going back to complain. He hears music from a loudspeaker and tells himself it's not like he wants to see her naked. He's just a law-abiding citizen demanding that a promise be fulfilled. He checks his phone. It's already 1800. Suddenly, a massive crack echoes. The screen flips and distorts like reality itself is breaking. Meguro is paralyzed as his head jerks to the side at a sharp, unnatural angle. A sickening crunch rings out. His eyes go wide with pain, he drops his phone, and everything goes black as he falls face down on the quiet street. The shrine gate stands silently in the distance as his first day comes to a brutal, lethal end. Then, he's suddenly back at the wooden gate. Meguru's brain is short-circuiting. What just happened to me? He stares at the shrine while a ghostly image of his collision with Toka flickers in his head. Below him, the long flowing hair of the goddess appears. She's sitting naked on the porch, gasping for air between fits of laughter. The goddess Yosuga is dying laughing, telling him the whole thing is just so funny. She clarifies that while a destined person exists, it was originally impossible for them to ever become his girlfriend. Meguru sighs, wondering where to even start explaining this mess as he approaches her in his hoodie and backpack. Then Yosuga narrows her eyes and drops the chilling revelation. The fated person will commit suicide the next evening. Looking at a horrifying vision of a bloody arm, she explains that she thought about it differently. Since the version of him without a girlfriend can't exist in this new path, if she dies, he's in for a really bad time. His fate is now sealed to hers. The goddess lays out the brutal rules. The moment his destined person dies, Meguru dies too. He stands frozen in a white void while Yusuga winks and explains he'll keep repeating the loop, restarting from the point of fate every single time, until he reaches a version of himself that actually has a girlfriend. Sweating and gasping back at the shrine, Meguru asks when he signed up for a death loop because he sure as hell doesn't remember asking for this. Yusuga just grins and says she forcibly pulled together two fates that were never meant to intersect. He clutches his head, wondering why he's still alive and wishing a cute alien girl would appear instead. The goddess smiles calmly, then her eyes fill with dozens of tiny pupils as she gets her only reason for this cruel setup. Because it's more entertaining for me this way. She simply watches her new plaything struggle with the horror of his new reality. The scene suddenly cuts back to the school building under a bright sky. Meguru is sitting at his desk staring at his own hands in confusion. I see, huh? Wait, what now? He hears the usual chatter and desperately tries to figure out if the shrine stuff was real or just a hallucination. He checks his normal phone, trying to convince himself this has to be a dream, right? Then Toka Oba leans in and asks what happened. When she starts telling the same dumb story about her boyfriend, he almost believes everything is back to normal. But as she leans in close with that same hilarious observation, your face looks like someone watching a pink pelican swallow a pigeon and realizing it's gorier than expected. Meguru thinks it's way too specific, but her normal teasing almost makes him believe the goddess was just a dream. He keeps his eyes on his phone and mutters that nothing is wrong. Toka gives him a curious look, says, "Ah, what?" and starts to walk away. That's when it hits him like a truck. She's saying the exact same things as before he died. The days repeating perfectly. Meguru realizes he's truly trapped in the death loop the goddess described. While the teacher writes on the chalkboard, Meguru is having a full-blown meltdown at his desk. He clutches his hair thinking, I see. Is all of this real? As the reality that his life is on the line sinks in, he forces himself to stay grounded. He pulls out a notebook and starts organizing his thoughts like a true desperate protagonist. He writes down the rules. His fated person is destined to commit suicide tomorrow evening. If he fails to save her, he dies and loops back again. He looks at the 6 candidates on the goddess app, picturing a dark silhouette with a noose, and decides he just needs to find which one is planning to end it and stop them. Sounds simple enough, in theory. He scans the classroom, wondering how the hell he's supposed to ask a random girl if she's suicidal without sounding completely insane. He knows Stoka is fine, but light-haired Miya Shinotsuki is already heading out the door. The school intercom chimes, announcing it's time to go home. Meguru realizes with pure panic that his time to prevent a suicide is rapidly running out. What am I supposed to do in just one day? He sprints into the corridor, spots Miya Shinotsuki, and rushes up to her, panting and sweating. Completely out of his element and fighting for his life, he stammers, what? In the quiet hallway, he blurts out with zero buildup, "Would you maybe consider going out with me?" The bottom of the page shows a close-up of her mouth as she lets out a small, confused, "Huh?" Then her face twists into pure disgust. "That's seriously gross. Don't talk to me." She walks away toward the stairs, leaving Meguru devastated. He reaches out desperately, pleading, no, wait, just for a sec." Meguru tries to chase after Miya Shinotsuki, but immediately stumbles with a clumsy thud. He loses his footing at the top of the stairwell, lets out an oof as his limbs flail wildly. His shoe slips with a loud smack, and he crashes hard onto the landing, while the girl just keeps walking away, completely indifferent. The physical pain is nothing compared to the ticking clock. He lies sprawled on the hallway floor, uniform all messed up, desperately reaching out his hand. "Wait, please, wait!" The school bells chime as the loudspeaker music sounds like a funeral march for his current life. He knows he's failed. A close-up of his smartphone shows the shattered screen displaying 17:59. Meguru has a total mental collapse. He bellows, "What the fuck? Why is this happening to me?" He begs for anyone to help him as the clock hits 1800. A massive, jagged crack rips through the hall. His neck snaps mid-gesture, and everything fades to black. His second attempt ends violently. He bolts awake at the shrine with a violent gasp, eyes wide with terror. He's fully aware he's trapped in this infinite loop. The memory of his neck cracking lingers, his eye throbbing with phantom pain as the trauma carries over into the third reset. Meguro collapses and screams in agony, writhing on the ground. The cheerful goddess Yosuga stands over him, still naked as ever. She casually explains the medical horror. His brain is just now catching up to the signal that his neck should hurt, even though the injury was technically undone. This time he's fully aware that he died. Face down in the dirt, Meguro groans that it isn't a big deal while trying to cope with the trauma. He eventually calls her a damn bastard. Yosuga isn't even offended. She notes that memory transfer requires the brain to remain as is. Then she realizes she hasn't even properly introduced herself to the boy she's cursed with eternal loops. One day, he made a simple wish to God because he desperately wanted a girlfriend, and this is what he got: a life reset death loop. The goddess grins as she explains that his destiny ends at this point, meaning he'll keep looping and paying for his wish with his own blood every single time he fails to make a romantic connection. Back in his room at 528, Meguro sits on his bed, hugging his knees, looking absolutely haunted by the fact that his fated person is destined to take their own life. He decides he can't let the same day repeat forever, and resolves to stay calm this time. He opens the Enusubi app and scans the list of candidates: Toka, Mia, Mito, and the rest. He knows that if he can stop one of these 6 from using a noose before 6 p.m., he won't have to die either. He now recognizes 4 of the faces, including the girl in a jacket, Mito Hiroasaka, the serious Sayaka Minemori, and his smiling childhood friend, Toka Aoba. His eyes lock onto long-haired Miya Shinotsuki as he prepares to track down the source of the despair triggering the loop. Sitting at his desk, he recalls the girl's angry face from his failed confession. He knows a random "go out with me" had 0 chance, but at least the loop mechanics give him comfort. Since he died, she has no memory of that embarrassing rejection. Gossip spreads like wildfire in school as students mock a leaked private account. Meguro watches the rumor mill spin from the background. His brain still registers the phantom pain of his neck snapping earlier. The classroom turns icy when Miya Shinotsuki slams her desk and flees the room, with classmates whispering about how scary she is. His childhood friend, Toka Aoba, notices his sudden interest in the drama and asks if he has something dirty on the brain. Meguro frantically tries to get her to spill the details while he still has time. Toka explains that everyone but him already knows the rumor. The girl's private account was found. Miya Shinotsuki, the one doing full Mia Khalifa stuff, has a leaked secret that's got the whole school talking. Toka shows him a blurred photo on her phone of a uniform-clad torso, mentioning that a student ID was visible. She's worried and isn't sure if she should report it to a teacher. Meguro thanks her in a bolt and immediately assumes the girl was bullied into a suicide attempt after her erotic selfies got exposed. He knows he has to find her before time runs out. Leaving Toka behind, still confused about what she should do about the harassment, Meguro takes off in a panic. He spots Miya Shinosuke, leaving school early. Toka is left wondering why she's going home when she stayed until evening yesterday. Meguro realizes his past actions have already shifted her schedule. Exhausted and desperate, with the clock ticking dangerously close to 1800, he can't find her anywhere. He changes tactics. If he can't find her, he'll search for where she might try to end it. He starts desperately checking local railroad crossings. As the orange sun dips, Miya Shinosuke stands before the lowering barriers at a crossing. The warning bells ring as the train approaches. She stares blankly at the tracks, ready to step forward as the fatal hour nears. Just as the train roars by, Meguro lunges out of nowhere. Ignoring the warning sign, he tackles her away from the tracks as the bells keep ringing. The girl is caught completely off guard as he throws her onto the pavement, screaming at her not to act rashly. He starts babbling complete nonsense about infinite possibilities, even claiming he could be a translator for the President of the United States just to distract her. She kicks him off in total confusion and disgust, screaming, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Lying prostrate on the pavement, Meguro begs her to listen. He knows he has to bring up the secret account to prove he understands her despair. He growls on the ground, desperately pleading for just a moment of her time, even if it makes him look like a total creep. Meguro freezes as his phone hits exactly 6 p.m. and he's still alive. He actually did it. In pure disbelief, he grabs Miya Shinotsuki's wrist and pulls her along. He can't believe it's already past 18.
he didn't die for a third time. He finally reached out and saved his fated person. The girl snaps at him to stop messing with her, but Meguru's too relieved to care. He apologizes and asks for just a second of her time, even calling her his soulmate. She immediately threatens to call the police, forcing him to scramble for anything to keep her leaving. To stop her, he admits he knows about the secret selfie account and desperately asks if there's anything he can do to help. Mia stares back with absolute disgust, but he keeps waving his hands and offering to do whatever she needs. Her expression turns icy as she questions why a random classmate even knows about her private selfies. Then she decides to test him, leading him to a new location. Meguru is internally thrilled that she's actually listening. She orders him to buy new clothes and change immediately, dragging him into a shopping center. He follows like a lost puppy, agreeing to buy whatever she wants. As long as he stays close, he can keep her safe. Now wearing a fresh plaid shirt, his brain completely short-circuits when she leads him straight to Hotel XX, a love hotel. He quickly agrees to go in when she threatens to leave, but he's delusional, thinking his relationship level just skyrocketed. Inside, he sees signs for 24-hour stays and hourly rates. He tries to convince himself this is just high-stakes karaoke. Then Mia starts adjusting her clothes without saying a word. Meguru is completely overwhelmed as she begins to reveal her shoulders in the private room.
Meguru tries to tell himself that girls just do this kind of thing, but his nerves are completely shot. Mia Shinotsuki takes off her outer shirt, revealing an ornate lace bra. She hands him her phone and bluntly tells him to take photos of her. The boy is in total shock, internally panicking about legal issues, while she explains that her own selfies are getting repetitive. Since the hotel reception is unmanned, it was easy to sneak in, but she needs fresh angles because her solo shots all look the same. She taunts him, asking if a virgin like him would even know how to take good photos. Then she stares him down and dares him, telling him to try and attack her if he thinks he's so tough. Maya lies back on the bed in her revealing clothes and challenges him again. Go ahead if you can actually assault me. Meguru is frozen in cold sweat, hovering over her. The tension is unbearable. Finally, his brain breaks. He drops to the floor in a deep bow and screams an apology, admitting he's a clueless virgin who doesn't know anything. Maya sits up and tells him he doesn't need to apologize since she was the one who asked. She sighs that even if he saw her naked, he probably wouldn't feel anything. Annoyed by her self-loathing, Meguru yells that he has plenty of lewd thoughts, even if he isn't some cool surfer type. He reminds her that if he hadn't met her, she would have killed herself, so she shouldn't talk about herself like that. Thinking back to her attempt, he blurts out that she's actually pretty cute. The girl freezes. Her expression darkens as she whispers a flat denial that she is cute. She grips the bedsheet tightly in distress, before suddenly exploding in rage.
Mia Shinotsuki suddenly screams that she isn't cute at all and storms out of the love hotel room. Meguru is left standing there completely baffled, reaching out and shouting after her. He wonders if her extreme reaction to a simple compliment is the real reason behind her suicide attempt. As he's yelling for her to wait, he suddenly spots Toka Aoba nearby. Worst timing ever. His childhood friend stares at him in shock as he stands outside the love hotel with a shopping bag. Toka quickly pulls out her phone and snaps a photo of him. Meguru screams for her to wait, but she sprints away, calling his behavior the worst thing she's ever heard. He tries to explain he was just talking to the girl, but Toka points out that Mia ran out with her clothes in disarray. She sarcastically asks if the physical exam roleplay was too much right off the bat. Meguru admits his mistake was telling her she was cute. Toka is momentarily surprised, then shows him Mia's address on her phone, saying he'll understand everything if he goes there. She warns him that if he reached out, he needs to take responsibility until the end, instead of being half-hearted. Later, Meguru checks his phone and sees a final post on Mia's secret account dated May 16th. She's deleting everything and saying goodbye. That night, he stands outside a modern two-story house, second-guessing himself hard. Showing up at her place this late makes him look like a total creep. He almost turns around and goes home, but remembers that if she dies, he dies too. Stealing his resolve, he reaches out and presses the doorbell. A beautiful older woman with long hair opens the door.
A beautiful older woman with long hair opens the door and looks at Meguru with curiosity. He stammers, asking to see Mia. The woman reveals she isn't home yet.
Meguru panics, thinking she might be the older sister, and starts backing away awkwardly, saying he'll just talk to her at school tomorrow. Even when the woman offers to call her, he keeps retreating. As he walks away, something about the woman feels familiar. He stops in front of a tall old apartment building, looks up at the roof, and sees a lone figure standing dangerously close to the ledge. The wind whips her hair as she stares down with cold determination. Meguru bursts onto the rooftop, gasping for air. He sarcastically asks if she's okay with turning into a ghost since this place is famous for jumpers, thanks to that one magazine edition on local suicide spots. Mia turns around in total shock. She coldly asks why he's there. That's when Meguru notices a fashion magazine called Basa lying on the roof, featuring the same woman he met earlier. He pieces it together and asks if her selfie obsession is actually related to her sister. Mia turns away, asking why she'd tell him anything. Meguru tries to persuade her, claiming he's a lone wolf, so whatever she says won't go anywhere. He even yells that it's like how sound doesn't travel in a vacuum, leaving her stunned by his weird explanation. Finally, Mia starts opening up. She used to be really close with her sister, who was 2 years older. They always played together. Her sister was stylish and smart, and Mia loved her a lot. But everything began to shift back when they were in elementary school. In a heartbreaking childhood flashback, young Mia watches the boy she liked confess his feelings to her older sister instead. That's the moment she realized she was always just the lesser version of her perfect sister, and the truth hit her right in the face. Back on the rooftop, Mia shows Meguru her phone. Her sister now has 200,000 followers. After making her own account and posting slightly naughty photos, her follower count exploded, but she still feels like she'll never catch up no matter how hard she cheats the game. Feeling completely done, she steps closer to the ledge. Meguru looks at her flatly and says, "That's so lame." Caught off guard, Mia gets angry when he reminds her that she was the one who asked him for help. He fires back, "Who is really messing around here? My life is literally on the line." He sighs and mutters that he's already died twice because of this ridiculous situation. Before she can react, he snatches the phone from her hand, starts clicking, and with a manic grin declares, "All right, posted." He uploaded a selfie with the caption, "Got a boyfriend, so I'm quitting." Mia screams in total shock as her secret account gets completely nuked. She frantically tries to grab the phone back, yelling that he can't just take someone else's phone like that. Meguru just laughs as the hate comments flood in, until he reads one saying he looks like a guy warming up the bench for the ping pong team, which he finds oddly specific. In the end, Mia looks at him, smiles, and calls him an idiot. Meguru admits she's always negative, but when she actually smiles, it's kinda cute. Meguru thinks to himself that if he's the only one who knows the real her, it feels special, like a rare find. But Mia immediately roasts him, saying his attempt to be unique is exactly why he's still a virgin. He tries to play it off as a bold statement for diversity. Then, out of nowhere, Mia leans in and kisses him on the cheek while snapping a photo. Meguru's frozen in shock until he sees her thumb moving over the screen. He lets out a confused scream about the lost teachings of Atlantis as she uploads the kiss photo to her account. Mia smirks and asks, "How much are you willing to pay?" Now he's the one getting extorted. He begs her to delete it while she laughs at the incoming comments. One person even vows to kill him, and Meguru yells that this isn't funny. He's about to become an obituary headline. As they walk down the stairs, he asks her directly if he asked her to be his girlfriend, would she actually say yes? Mia looks down at the ground as a shooting star streaks across the sky behind them. She looks troubled and simply replies, sorry, I can't." Back in his room, Meguru's face down on his bed screaming "why" into his pillow. He tells himself he's not doing anything wrong and that he just has to keep trying, even after the rejection. At least time is still moving forward. The next morning, Mia greets him on the way to school. She's cut her hair into a cute short bob and waves tentatively. Meguru's stunned by the change. She explains that her sister cut it for her yesterday and thanks him, saying it's been a while since they talked, and she feels a lot better now. He feels awkward and suggests someone like him shouldn't walk with her, but she smiles brightly and says she decided not to care about that stuff anymore. Then she brings up what he asked yesterday, telling him he might have misunderstood her a bit. Miya Shinotsuki explains that when she said, "I can't," it didn't mean dating him was completely impossible. She was just caught off guard by how sudden it was. Blushing deeply, she struggles to finish her sentence and admits she kind of feels differently now. Miya calls out to Osaka, but he's already gone. In a split second, a massive, violent spray of blood and flesh erupts on the sidewalk, leaving only a gory splatter where Meguru was standing. Meguru wakes up screaming in his bed, covered in sweat and gasping. His body feels like it's being torn apart. He's in extreme pain as phantom blood splashes around him. Then, a horrifying realization hits him. Wait, why isn't it my neck this time? He looks at Miya in his memory and finally understands. She is not his fated partner after all. If she was, they would have died together. He's been sent back one full day. Back to square one. Meguru runs past Miya the next morning, shouting, "Sorry, Shinotsuki, I'm in a hurry. I'll catch you later." He stops for a second, turns around, and yells that her new hairstyle is really cute, leaving her stunned, then keeps running. Still not knowing who his destined person is, he grips the bridge railing near school and screams at the top of his lungs, "Somebody please be my girlfriend!" 3 students below look up in complete shock as he falls to his knees in tears. Bystanders start gossiping while he thinks this desperate outburst was all he could do with so little time left. He just wants it to end already. Then, a girl named Sayaka Minamori looks down at him and calmly asks, "You mentioned you were looking for a girlfriend. Would it be possible for you to be my boyfriend?" Meguru is completely stunned, his face turning red as he instantly shouts back with a clenched fist, "Yes, I'd love to!" He reflects on all his painful deaths. His simple wish for a girlfriend turned into this cursed loop where he dies if he doesn't succeed. Out of the 6 girls, he's only properly talked to one so far, and his latest brutal death confirmed Miya wasn't the fated one. Still, he somehow made it to the next day. Meguru heads to the shrine, relieved he actually got to see tomorrow. He stands in front of the empty building and shouts, "Hey, damn god!" When she doesn't appear, he grabs the shrine rope and yells for Yosuga to come out. The goddess finally shows up, looking annoyed and asking if he can wait until she gets her daily bonus. She complains that she's been juggling too much and is bored because she went through all this trouble to set up interesting conditions, but he just won't die. Meguru apologizes for being so boring. Yosuga says his apology feels insincere and suggests he do a handstand and commit seppuku for some real entertainment value. When he asks why she's doing all this in such a roundabout way, she playfully reminds him that he made the wish. She smiles and repeats that it's simply because she's bored. Meguru shouts that he's being serious. Yosuga then explains that the world generates infinite parallel worlds from infinite choices. For her, it's like watching the same movie scene over and over with only tiny details changed. After 10,000 times, it's become unbearably boring. In a terrifying close-up with bloodshot eyes, she says it feels like her mind is slowly rotting away. Boredom is real suffering. She asks if it's so strange to want a distraction, then switches back to a cheerful smile and tells him to continue entertaining her. Back at school, Meguru sighs, realizing dealing with Yosuga directly is impossible. He'll have to find his fated person on his own. He spent the past 3 days looking into everyone, reviewing the profiles of Eikyu Domyoji and Hinako Hosaka, who are 3rd years, and Hito Hirasaka, a 1st year. He wonders how he's even supposed to create a connection with them. He glances at Toka and decides to set that carefree idiot aside for now, secretly wishing Miya had been the fated one. Nearby, Miya blushes while thinking she only turned down his confession because it was so sudden. She decides to ask him for some of his time after school, but suddenly senses someone watching and stands up with a glare. Sayaka Minamori stands at the front of the classroom and calls out, "Osaka-san." Meguru looks up in surprise while Miya watches tensely from the background. Sayaka walks straight to his desk and says, "About our date tomorrow." She explains she had the wrong line ID and politely asks to add him via his code instead, holding her phone out while the entire class watches with pure jealousy. She bows gracefully, apologizes for the trouble, and promises to see him tomorrow before walking out. The room instantly erupts into whispers. Someone blurts out, "Seriously?" Meguru celebrates internally with a loud hoo-hoo, but wonders why everyone is so shocked that a girl would talk to him. Toka immediately starts hitting him playfully, shouting to know since when they've been dating.
Meguru yells in pain for her to stop hitting his vital spots. We learn that Sayaka Minemori is a member of the literature club, beautiful but a bit airheaded. Toka says that's her charm, while Meguru thinks she's like an NPC friend who gives out status info. He explains to Toka, it's not like we're actually dating, it's more like a trial run. But Toka asks if they're still going on the date. She sips her strawberry milk and mentions confessing again can be embarrassing. She's just been through that phase since she just got her first boyfriend. Meguru looks away and says getting closer is a good thing regardless. Toka smiles widely and tells him it's truly good for you. But he knows things would be a lot simpler if they were actually dating.
As the sun sets over the playground, his friend leans in and asks, "You want me to be your practice partner?" Meguru thinks about the word practice and instantly remembers Sayaka saying she wouldn't mind if it's just for a few days since she lacks experience. His brain immediately flashes to a vivid imagination of her in underwear asking to practice with him, causing him to spit out his water in extreme shock. In a flashback, the literature club novelist explains she was told her romantic scenes lack depth because she has no real experience. When she heard Meguru desperately shouting that he wanted a girlfriend on the bridge, she saw it as the perfect opportunity. Meguru just looks at her and says, "Huh?" He checks the Enusubi app and thinks, luckily she's one of the fated persons. He asks with a nervous smile if she's sure about relying on someone like him, but internally he's locked in. He just needs to figure out if she's going to try to take her own life during the date. He turns to Mia and casually asks, "So, with that said, tell me, where should I take her for the date?" Mia just looks at him with a silent, intense stare. Before slowly leaning forward on her desk, suddenly she slams both hands down and screams, "What's going on?" Meguru blankly replies that he already explained it's a practice date and he wants advice on where to take her. Mia clutches her head in frustration, blushing hard, and shouts that asking her feels a little off since he literally confessed to her. He calmly replies that it's not the point because she turned him down, so it doesn't really matter. He asks again what he thinks he should do. Mia sighs, covers her face, and says she wants to kill the version of herself that actually worried about him. She even suggests he should just die. She asks why doesn't he ask someone like Toka Alba since they're so close, but Meguru imagines Toka bragging about expensive meat and her boyfriend and immediately shuts that idea down. Mia asks what practice dating even is and if it will really help her write novels. Meguru looks troubled and sweats because he doesn't really get it either, but he thinks her struggles aren't just about writing novels.
Meguru keeps his dark thoughts to himself. He can't exactly tell Mia he's trying to figure out if the girl might kill herself with no proof. Back in the classroom, Mia Shinotsuki is reluctantly helping him plan the perfect practice date. She asks if he's basically trying to help someone who's in trouble, just like he helped her. Meguru smiles and replies, "That is pretty much it." Mia sighs and hands him a list of suggestions: the Science Center Planetarium, a cat cafe in front of the station, and the observation deck at Memorial Park. Meguru is over the moon, shouting "whoa" and promising to treat her to something next time. The poor girl blushes hard and walks off, stammering that they're just suggestions. As she heads down the hall, she puts a hand to her head, wondering if she's the type to fall for hopeless guys. Later, Meguru waits outside, feeling prepared. His date, Sayaka Minowori, finally shows up in casual clothes. She thanks him and says she's really looking forward to their date. Just seeing a girl in casual clothes is apparently so amazing that Meguru is moved to actual tears. The novelist notices his intense reaction and asks if something is wrong. While sitting in a cafe, Meguru reminds himself this isn't the time to enjoy himself. He needs to check if she's troubled enough to want to die. He awkwardly asks how worried she is about her novel and if it's the kind of thing that makes her want to die. Sayaka just stares blankly and plainly says, "I have never thought about dying." Her face is a total void, like she's wearing a static mask. Meguru has zero idea what she's actually thinking. He watches her across the entire date, at a cake shop, the planetarium, and the cat cafe. Her reviews stay completely stoic, delicious, fascinating, or cute, without a single facial muscle moving the entire time. By sunset, Meguru is mentally exhausted and wonders if she's secretly a cyborg. After the date, Meguru suggests heading back. Sayaka actually apologizes for tiring him out and gives him a rare, genuine smile while thanking him for putting so much thought into it. Meguru is left flustered and speechless, thinking this must be one of those special moments. Back home at 9:35 p.m., he reflects that she doesn't seem like the type to take her own life, but he still doesn't know when it might happen.
He decides to check a different candidate tomorrow. Then the mask completely shatters. Alone in her room, Sayaka leans against the wall, trembling and crying her eyes out with a level of grief she never showed once during their entire date. A belt lies discarded on the floor. Meanwhile, Meguru is casually having a drink when he hears a sickening crack. He barely has time to say, "Huh?" before deep bruises appear on his neck. The supernatural link activates. Sayaka has ended her life. At exactly 9:42 p.m., his neck snaps in a brutal burst of blood. An unsettling illustration of a large bloodshot eye marks the beginning of the extra content section. Meguru wakes up on his floor, clutching his throat and vomiting from the trauma. He gasps for air, cursing that no matter how many times he goes through this, he just can't get used to it. It's now 8:14 p.m. on May 15th, the night before the date. He considers canceling tomorrow's date to focus on the other three candidates, but he remembers their cafe conversation. When he asked if she ever felt troubled enough to want to die, there was a suspicious pause before she answered no. That pause was a red flag. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's his childhood friend, Toka Aoba. She teases him because it's rare for him to call first. He can hear splashing sounds, she's in the bath, and playfully calls him out for having indecent thoughts. Meguro gets flustered and lets out a startled, "What?" She mentions she has plans with her boyfriend after her bath. Meguro bluntly tells her to drown, then admits he's unsure about tomorrow's date. Toka gives surprisingly good advice. Don't just do typical date spots. Go somewhere you actually want to go. A real date is about understanding each other and showing who you really are. Meguru admits her advice makes sense and calls her wise for someone who just got a boyfriend. Toka laughs and says she looked it up online before wishing him luck. Determined to try a completely different approach, Meguru takes Sayaka to watch the movie Dinosaur vs. Space Shark vs. Third Empire. She stares at the poster and can only say it looks interesting. After the movie, Sayaka finally snaps and launches into a passionate, logic-driven rant about how she doesn't understand the point of raising dinosaurs on the moon. Meguru is sweating but amazed by her sudden burst of emotion. At a cafe, she explains she'll use the movie's human drama as reference for her next novel. Meguru laughs awkwardly, thinking she sure talks a lot when she gets going. She then notes his taste in movies is even stranger and asks if he's okay with something. Hoping to bond, he asks where she would like to go next.
Sayaka is shocked that Meguru is actually asking about her. He vows to do anything he can to help, which makes her trail off as she considers the offer. She leads him to an antique shop called Dujima Bookstore. Meguru is stunned by the towering shelves and exclaims that there are a ton of books. As she walks ahead through the quiet aisles, Sayaka points to a high shelf and casually asks for a shoulder ride to get a book. Meguru is shocked, but she reminds him he promised to do anything for her. He starts panicking and stammering while she holds him to his word. He suggests asking the clerk for a stepladder, but she whispers that she's too scared to talk to the staff. Meguru realizes this anxiety is why she needed him along, and he finds this vulnerable side of her surprisingly cute. He offers to talk to the clerk for her, but freezes when he sees the guy, an absolute unit with a mohawk and face tattoos, silently reading and ignoring everyone. After one look at the terrifying clerk, Meguru decides a shoulder ride is no big deal after all. He crouches down and lifts her up, saying, "All right, here we go." As he stands up with her on his shoulders, he realizes they're facing the wrong way. Sayaka points out she's wearing a skirt, which he eventually accepts. He blushes furiously while trying to ignore the tactile reality and noticing her hair smells nice. She calls out his name, tells him he's heavy, and demands he hurry up and grab the book. While he's struggling, the Mohawk clerk walks by with a feather duster, silently judging them. They end up tumbling into a heap of books. The clerk stands over them holding a rare first edition of Alice and Dragon and dryly mentions they actually have a stepladder. Mortified, the two can only bow deeply in apology. Afterward, Sayaka asks him to please forget what just happened. Meguru shouts that it's forgotten, though he privately wonders if he's actually forgiven for the accidental contact since she's not reacting at all. She then asks what book he bought. It turns out to be the children's novel Alice and Dragon.